Alright, we immediately follow up the cliffhanger from the last episode with Hayato and the Source pilots ready to fucking kill each other. Hayato blinds the tall guy and goes full classic manga psychopath Hayato and somehow manages to disable all three of them. Kamui shows up suddenly, declares his intent to shut down the Garrett Cauldron, and meanwhile fucking Hayato keeps on going and kills all the Source pilots. Jesus Christ. Hayato and Kamui then get into a boxing match. Hayato reveals he has an edge because Kamui's body is being eaten away by Getter radiation. Kamui defends his position because while Getter will bring human prosperity, it will lead all the Saurians to go extinct. Hayato reveals he's aware of that, and that the Getter Emperor does exist as the end potential of human evolution, but he will not allow Kamui to stop it because it defends the Earth. Kamui reveals that he's only fighting to ensure the Saurians aren't wiped out, and if they can work together, he's cool with that. Hayato counters and that he agrees that human and Saurian life is equal, but he won't allow Getter Robo to be stopped because it's the only way human beings have a chance to always exist in the world. So Kamui eventually kills Hayato. Shit. Now Kamui seems regretful, but then he gets a phone call that the bug has been completed. So he pops right into it, and we pretty much steer right into the ending at this point. Now General Bat comes back all of nowhere, and he looks suddenly jacked as hell, whereas previously he was in a wheelchair. What the fuck? And then the Super Robot Army goes off to fight Bug. Bug is a really weird looking mecha. It reminds me a lot of Grand Zone from Super Robot Wars, but it has aspects that kind of make it look like Perfect Cell from Dragon Ball, only blue. But otherwise, it's a big fat mecha for the end game of the show. Now, Kamui uses it to somehow use a single attack and destroy like 1/3 of the Earth's surface. They imply that this attack went all the way from Egypt to London. Now, it's a really weird last second cameo, but Cohen and Singer from Armageddon appear as human researchers living in the dinosaur empire for one scene. Anyway, at this point, Kamui kills Science Bro without much pomp and circumstance. And then, as a result of this, Kamui's mom is murdered because I guess the dinosaurs get all like jacked up on going all in on human genocide. Kamui's mom says his name, and that's the only time she ever talks, and then she dies. A bunch of people try to escape to Mars, but the dinosaurs shoot them down. Meanwhile, Hayato is actually still alive and somehow falling in slow motion as he falls into the Getter Cauldron. All of a sudden, a Stoker appears above Earth. It's a brand new Stoker, but this time the Ark comes out. Takuma is horrified that the Earth is all red and wrecked up, and Sho clues in Takuma that he's been in space for 6 months, and Kamui has pretty much conquered the entire Earth. I really like this plot twist right here because it fixes the timeline of what the fuck is going on and why is it all happening so fast. So Takuma is pissed at Kamui, and he knows he can't allow him to genocide all humans, so he goes off to fight him. As Hayato is meanwhile falling through the Getter Cauldron, Ryuma's ghost confronts him, letting him know he has one last thing to do, and then they're all going to go off on a new fabulous adventure together. Hayato somehow miraculously peacefully lands on the Getter Cauldron, and despite being shot in the chest, he's pretty chill about it all, and he goes off to open the cauldron. Now at this point we steer back into the last two panels of the manga again. They really managed to milk this last panel for 2 whole fucking episodes. Though in this episode they show the beginning of the fight leading into the panel, and the last episode they just kind of started in it. Anyway, so the Ark tries to beat the Bug. The Bug has a force field that blocks several of its attacks. Takuma changes form on the Getter Robo and tries using Khan since it has a rapid missile attack. I get the logic here, he's trying to see if a number of attacks will take down the shield, but the Bug's clearly not having it. So then he changes into Kirik, and Kamui smiles because he knows Takuma can't use Kirik as well as he can. He actually uses the drill on Kirik to drill through the Bug's shield though, surprising Kamui and dealing damage to the Bug. Then finally, Takuma whips out the Shine Spark attack he learned a few episodes ago, and in this episode he's fully refined it into the Arc Shine Bomber attack. And here we finally catch up to the manga. Kamui and Takuma argue about the creation of the Emperor, but Takuma is angry because he says that they can have control of the outcome, and that they didn't control that future. And meanwhile, Hayato opens up the Getter Cauldron, releasing the fully evolved Getter Dragon. And there it is, popping up in the middle of the fight while Takuma and Kamui are arguing even more. And fuck! Oh my god, what the fuck? It ended at the same place the manga ended. No! Good god, what the hell? Okay, hold on. There's still 4 minutes left. They can still tie this up. Okay, so a special Jam Project song plays over the ending. We get an ending that is entirely manga pics of Hayato doing manga shit. Rest in peace, Hayato. You died as you lived. Manly as fuck. Okay, so now shit gets even weirder. Next stop, Mars. Imaga Sono Tokida from Shin Getter plays. Oh my god, they're doing it! Takuma and Baku have seemingly reset their appearances to back to the first episode. So much that they even recycle animation for the first episode, and they bail out a much older Kamui from prison on Mars. By the conversations they're having, it seems that they have defeated him in battle, sent him to jail, let him sit for a few years, and now they're breaking him out because it's time to fight and they need his help. So they all get back in the Getter Robo arc, and they go off to fight a weird, gigantic Getter Robo 1, with some aspects of Shin Getter, particularly in the face, and definitely Ryoma as the pilot. Well, goddamn, not only did they did it, but they somehow gave us the same fucking cliffhanger from the manga, but then they added another additional cliffhanger on top of it. Jesus, I'm disappointed in this. I mean, it really course corrects several points from the original, but it's a cliffhanger on top of a cliffhanger. Okay, if there's one thing this episode did major big time justice to, it's they devoted this episode to kind of doing a character study on Kamui, and they pretty much saved his character arc. They kind of justified his conquest of the Earth, but they also made him out to be a tragic hero character. Not just some asshole who betrayed the team because he was a dinosaur, but they flipped things back over in the end credits to make it all eventually show that they all made up, they all became friends again, they were all cool, and they all went off as friends in the end. Now, Hayato, meanwhile, went out like a freaking god in this episode. He killed all three of the Soares pilots with his bare hands, and geez, I like those dudes, so that's a sad end to them. And yeah, now that I think about it, they really just straight up murdered like literally all of Kamui's friends and family in this one, aside from the Getter team and General Bat. So damn, these last two episodes were a real mindfuck. I mean, they mostly straightened out the pacing issue of the ending, but I don't know, they filled in some plot holes, but then they added even more. Okay, so here guys, here's one plot hole they added. They actually added a new plot hole, and that was General Bat. Now, General Bat had a throwaway cameo earlier in the series where he was just a senile old man in a wheelchair, but in this episode, what the fuck? Once Kamui goes to attack the world, somehow he's all jacked up and down to conquer the world again? Like, what the fuck is up with that? That seems like they were trying to set up something that won't happen, or isn't happening right now. Otherwise, yeah, these whole last two episodes, they ironed out the path from the end of the Andromeda arc into the random battle with Bug. They added a lot to the setup of the battle, the actual beginning of the battle itself, but then they fucking skipped the end of the battle. Like, literally, for 14 years, all people have wanted is the end of the battle. And then in a final, unfucking forgivable point to this episode, fill in all these blanks, but the unfucking forgivable part of this episode is that even though the ending showed us what happens afterwards, Kamui gets defeated, he gets captured alive, he gets imprisoned on Mars, they have the gall to skip over the final fucking ultimate battle? Like, how dumb can you guys fucking be? Like, I would have been way more satisfied if they'd skipped over the beginning of the battle, which they added, or they just like ripped on through and finished the battle and showed the end of it. Like, what a weird, hellish choice. Like, instead of all that bullshit, they just set up another completely different cliffhanger on top of the cliffhanger we already had. They surpassed one cliffhanger with another. And so, yeah, the new cliffhanger is Arc reuniting to fight on Mars against Giant Getter 1. Now, I'm not sure what the official name of Giant Getter 1 is going to be, so I'm just calling it Giant Getter 1. I'm a little surprised to see this thing, considering they really seemed like they were avoiding doing any cameos of the original Getter 1 in this series, despite showing G, Shin, and One Piece of Go showing up. Now, by all accounts, Giant Getter 1 is the awakened and evolved Shin Getter Robo, still piloted by Ryoma's ghost, but before it evolved into Getter Emperor. So I guess based on this ending, Arc is going to put it down, and then maybe we'll get a happy ending where the Saurians and humans can finally live in peace, and Getter Emperor doesn't go on to dominate the universe. Gah, alright. Last episode scoreboard. 1 point for jacked Hayato beating the shit out of the dinosaur team. 1 point for that nicely explained time skip, covering up several plot holes with the fast pacing of the manga. 1 point for Hayato really staving off his death. 1 point for the special ending memorializing Hayato's death. 1 point for Takuma mastering the Shin arc Shine Bomber attack. 1 point for trying to finish out Kamui's story arc and doing so well enough. 1 more point for dropping Imagaso no Tokida on the epilogue. And 1 more final point for the epilogue redeeming Kamui and moving the goalpost forward in a pretty good amount of space in what was really just 2 minutes. So that wraps up this last episode for a grand total of 8 points. Not the best, but yeah, that's an episode. If I'm being honest, I'm really not satisfied with this ending. It was way easier to swallow than the manga's ending, I guess. And it delivers some closure. It surprisingly rounded off Kamui's character arc in a really decent way. But I mean, what the fuck? You make a Super Robot show, you throw in all these extra battles we didn't need, and then you skip over the grand ultimate battle that the entire manga set up? Like, come on guys, that's so dumb. Like, they could have had the grand ultimate battle if they just skipped over fighting fucking fake Shin Dragon an episode or so ago. So, I hate to leave you guys hanging with another cliffhanger on top of a cliffhanger, but I myself am going to come back and do 1 more video about the show, probably next week. I want to come back and do a series wrap-up because I really need a few days to decompress everything, and for what it's worth, in every video I've done a review of the individual episode. So this next video I'm going to do is going to be a review of the whole series as it works as a whole binge from start to finish. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'm Buster Green, and Getter Robo Arc is finished now. Or is it? I don't know. Subscribe.